My name's Sue from the Gut Cancer Foundation. We're joined this evening by Sean Robertson from Four Wheels of Health, our expert nutritionist who has been supporting us along the way. So very grateful for the support of Four Wheels of Health to this campaign. Before I hand over to Sean, who's doing a session on the gut microbiome, I just want to say huge thank you to everyone for the fundraising effort. I had a little look before we came on the webinar, and we've just gone through $88,000 raised to support New Zealanders with gut cancers. So huge thank you to everyone. That's a phenomenal effort, given the environment we're in, and you know, a lot of people struggling at the moment with the Omicron outbreak. We're just so very grateful for everyone, for the fundraising effort. It's a collective effort, and I think, you know, it's an example of the power of many. If everybody does a little bit, it adds up to a lot and can make a real difference to the research projects that we can fund. So thank you. If you're struggling a little bit with your fundraising, don't forget we've got a tips video that we did early on in the piece, so look out for that as a blog post on the website. And just a couple of extra tips for you might like to try this week. A number of businesses do support their employees with fund matching for anybody fundraising. So go and check with your boss and see if they'll either give you a donation towards your fundraising or maybe match what you're raising, which can give a good incentive for when you're putting it out to friends and family to donate. If they know that, for instance, their donation is being matched by your employer, can be a really good incentive. And at this point, I'd like to do a shout out to all the Turners Automotive Group who are taking part in the Give It Up Challenge. The Turners CEO has very generously offered to match up to $20,000 worth of fundraising from the Turners teams. Hopefully you can use that as an incentive to go out there and raise a little bit more over the coming weeks. So thank you to the Turners Group. One other thing I would just say is to continue sharing your journey. Don't get too dispirited if people don't always donate when you share what you're doing, but equally important part of this campaign is raising awareness. By you sharing what you're doing and the steps you're taking to improve your own health and the reasons why, it helps raise awareness about this group of cancers that isn't talked about a lot. So do keep sharing. We're into the second week now. I know personally I'm doing sugar-free and really struggled this week. So I was very grateful for the tips that Sean gave us last week on cravings. So I've been having lots of natural yogurt. I bought a jar of sauerkraut. I haven't had that yet, but yeah, trying to up my probiotics to stave off the cravings. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Sean, who's going to talk through the gut microbiome, what it is and how it impacts overall health and well-being. So many thanks again, Sean, and over to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Sue. So yeah, today it's very contextual. It's all about the background info on what is really happening with your gut microbiome, what it's doing for you and the impacts that it can have. And the idea behind this is just to get a bit of awareness of overall, I think you'll see if your light bulbs will go off, the importance of all the bacteria that live in our gut and how important they are for our health. A lot of scientists that research the gut microbiome actually class that large collection of bacteria as an organ. It does the same amount and sometimes more jobs in the organs in your body. So highly important. So the initial concept that I want you to think about when it comes to the gut microbiome is it's actually a bit of a battlefield. It's almost like a war that's going on every day, every moment between good and bad bacteria. And they are essentially fighting over territory, real estate, which is your gut lining. Because the more real estate a group of bacteria holds, the more access they have to resources, to food. So the thing here is that different types of bacteria eat different things and they have different influences on the body. So the good bacteria, and I say good, by good I mean it's a symbiotic relationship. You have a lot of bacteria that live inside of you where you are providing something for them and allowing them to thrive and grow and survive. And they are going to provide things back for you so you can be your strongest, healthiest, best self, which ensures their survival. The bad bacteria, they're a lot more parasitic. So they will take a lot of the nutrients from your food that you could use it for themselves. A lot of the time it's actually sugar. And they don't care about your well-being. It's all about them. That's why I say they're parasitic. So they will turn a lot of their food into byproducts that are actually really bad for you. It's just toxins and chemicals that don't do anything good for your body and actually quite negative. So the overall gist is that if you have more good, then you're going to be healthier and just better. Blanket statement. If you have more bad, then your health is going to be more negatively impacted and you're not going to feel as well. To get into a little bit of detail around this, we can talk about what the good and bad bacteria actually produce. So good bacteria, they like to eat fiber, antioxidants, and just think of a lot of things that will come from plants, your fruit and vegetables, basically, nuts and seeds, anything from plants. So they eat that and they will turn it into vitamins. They will separate out and feed you more minerals, so it's electrolytes. They also produce things we call bioactive factors, which help you to digest and absorb your food. So you actually get more nutrients per meal if you have more good gut bacteria. And then they also help with the production of serotonin and healing in the gut so that you don't have any holes or anything forming in your gut. And I'll talk about that soon. So it improves your overall health by essentially giving you energy, giving you nutrients. That's what these good bacteria do. That is to improve your health, but as a byproduct of that, because 80–90% of your serotonin, which is your happy hormone, is formed in the gut, it makes you feel good, but it also has a lot of properties around the body to stay healthy. Because so much of it is formed in the gut and is influenced by your good gut bacteria, what this means is if you have a lot of good gut bacteria, then you are going to feel very, very good. Now, on the other side of the coin, the bad bacteria, they mainly eat sugars, they do eat trans fats, they will use some of the other nutrients, good nutrients from your food as well. And the byproduct that they create is nothing good for you. They actually create alcohol through fermentation. They create certain toxins and things called cytokines, which is like the opposite to serotonin. Now, why this is so key, and this is especially in New Zealand with mental health being a really, really big society-wide issue, if you have a lot of bad gut bacteria, they are going to be producing a lot of toxins and cytokines. Now, these cytokines, they get into the blood, they get out the gut membrane, they get into the blood and they travel up to the brain and they attach to where serotonin would normally attach. So it actually blocks you being able to feel good. It blocks you being able to feel happy. What this means in very, very simple terms is that if you have a large proportion of bad gut bacteria because you've been feeding lots of sugar, because you haven't been feeding the good gut bacteria, which can outgrow the areas with the bad ones, so you haven't been taking care of your gut, you will, on a chemical level, feel more depressed and more anxious. And this is why you can see such powerful results when people start to address their nutrition and address their gut health for their mental health, rather than going to see a psychologist or psychiatrist. And I don't have anything against those practices. I think they have their place, but a lot of the time, if you don't feel well, the foundational issue, given there's no very obvious traumas and things, if you just don't feel good, you're just kind of feeling blue, it's probably your gut health. So what we want to do is improve the amount of good bacteria in the gut and decrease the bad bacteria. Now, one of the other things, and I guess the point of me saying these particular points here, is that I'm trying to scare you almost into really considering your gut health. So that some of the toxins that these bad bacteria produce, they're called endotoxins, and they're pretty scary how they can influence not just how you feel, but your health quite significantly. So a lot of bad bacteria produce these. Again, they get into the blood, and once they're in the blood, some very funny things happen. The first one is that your immune system reacts to them as if they are a virus or a bacteria that's foreign. So they start attacking these endotoxins, but these endotoxins, they're just chemicals. They're not alive. They're not harmful pathogens. And if you're eating dinner, I would advise to stop, because this is a little bit graphic. But when you get a small cut on your hand, if it gets infected, it's red, it's inflamed, and then you get the yellow pus that forms. So that yellow pus is just dead cells, mainly white blood cells, your immune system. That same effect happens inside your blood system when these endotoxins are circulating. There's no cuts, but everything gets very inflamed because the immune system gets very uppity and wants to take care of these endotoxins. So you become systemically inflamed, your whole body, and you can have a very puffy face or just puffy skin from this. You can feel very tired, very easy to agitate, and it also means that your immune system is being taxed heavily trying to fight this thing that doesn't really exist in the form that it thinks it does. So you get this inflammation around the body, and it perpetuates itself. It keeps going round and round and round until you address the core cause, which is your gut health. So a lot of people can be living in that perpetual state of inflammation, and inflammation can be linked back to literally every ailment or illness under the sun. Their inflammation is present. So it's pretty impactful, just as a blanket healing effect, is to address your gut health just for the systemic inflammation that stems from these bad gut bacteria. Now, the other side of this is, I should just, while we're on this topic, actually, I should mention, because the context of what this talk is under, inflammation is a underlying symptom and cause of cancer as well. So in that sense, you are improving or reducing your odds of getting any kind of cancer, especially gut cancers, if you are addressing your gut health. Those endotoxins will also bind to the liver, and they attach the place where cholesterol would normally attach. Cholesterol is not bad. I don't like it being demonized. It's actually a healing mechanism, and we need it for many things in your body. You wouldn't last 2 minutes on Earth without cholesterol. It's actually very, very good. The only problem is when there's too much. It's too much of a good thing. And endotoxins cause this. They bind to the liver. The liver gets the signal that no cholesterol is present, because all its ports are being filled with these endotoxins instead, and so it starts overproducing cholesterol. And that's why if you go and get blood tests, your cholesterol can be very, very high, and your doctor will say this is a huge concern, and you may be doing everything right. You're exercising, you're eating well, you're trying to get good sleep, you're trying to really take care of yourself, but your cholesterol level is still very high. It's probably coming from issues in the gut. So it's two, I guess, yeah, quite scary things that can stem from not addressing gut health. And that's not even getting into detail of like leaky gut syndrome or candida overgrowth, which is where there's a fungus that can essentially take up too much room in the body and start taking all your nutrients. There's a lot of detail we can go into there, but this is a bird's eye view understanding of gut health and why we want to address it. So if you are taking steps to improve your gut health, then this is what we are trying to do. We are trying to increase the amount of good bacteria, decrease the amount of bad bacteria. And that's a combination of feeding the good bacteria, introducing more good bacteria, and doing things that are conducive for a good environment for them. And at the same time, trying to make it very difficult for the bad bacteria to flourish. So reducing sugars, you're taking away their food source. Every time you get a sugar craving, I believe I already mentioned this in a previous video. If you take away their food source, sugars, that's your sugar cravings, them asking for food, they're going to starve out. They're going to reduce in number and leave more room for your good bacteria to grow. As long as you keep feeding them fiber, antioxidants, they will flourish. They will take up more real estate in your gut, and all the benefits that you get from them will drastically improve, while all the downsides of the bad bacteria are going to significantly decrease. Now, so you mentioned earlier, there was a question that came through that relates into gut health here.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So, yeah, just on the group, someone that couldn't join this evening live, they said, I've heard a lot about the impact of the gut microbiome on many things from cravings to energy levels, etc. Most things recommend a good probiotic. In an overcrowded supplement industry, how do you separate the good probiotics from the woo and wives' tales? And are there different ones depending what you're trying to improve? So it's sort of a two-part question.
Yeah.
How can we be confident that they're good probiotics that we're perhaps purchasing in a supplement? And are there different ones depending on what we're trying to improve?
Okay, so this is one of those areas where you really do get what you pay for. There's almost a threshold, like any probiotics you find in the supermarket. I'm not including the probiotic foods, so I'm talking purely supplements. The ones that you find in the supermarket are probably not going to be very helpful. And the reason for this is that you aren't introducing any new or niche bacteria that we know from research are beneficial. So generally in health stores, they've got a wide range of probiotics there. And I actually wouldn't get too hung up on which brand is the best, because yes, some brands will have certain bacteria strains that they've researched and found to be very useful and they've put it in their supplement. But different brands have different research teams and find different beneficial bacteria. So actually my advice around probiotics is take a probiotic brand, have their probiotics, and then next time you're going to get some, have a different brand, because each different brand will contain different strains of bacteria, and it's actually the diversity of bacteria that you have in your gut microbiome that makes it far more potently good for your health. And the analogy I would use is, and it's the same analogy that my partner Simon for 4 Wheels of Health, he uses a lot on our courses. He talks about the gut microbiome being a rainforest, and it's very accurate in the sense that if a rainforest has a huge amount of biodiversity, a lot of different species, a lot of different fauna, it's far healthier. The ecosystem is very, very strong and balanced, and it's hard to knock. The same thing for your gut microbiome. It's like a rainforest. The larger the diversity that you have, the stronger and healthier the entire environment is going to be. And I'm referring to the good bacteria. So when it comes to brands of probiotics, it's actually best to kind of juggle through different brands from health stores. You can do a bit of research yourself, or you can normally talk to the people there at the counter, and generally they will know a fair bit about what brands are good for what. But I would steer clear of the cheaper probiotics like in supermarkets and things. There will be some exceptions, but as a blanket statement, that would be my approach.
Oh, that's great. And I think that covers off about the different ones depending what you're trying to improve. Yeah, there's different ones, but I mean, I don't know in the context of the webinar if you can go into all the detail, but as a general rule, are there different ones depending on what you're trying to improve, or what you're aiming for? From what I'm hearing is just a real diversity.
There are certain bacteria that will improve different aspects of your health. But again, because we're a system of systems, nothing is isolated. So if you take some probiotics that may improve one area of your health that you're not actually trying to target, it will indirectly improve other areas a lot of the time. And then, maybe you have a different brand that does specifically target the area of health that you're looking to improve, but then as a byproduct of that, you're going to be helping other areas of your health. So this comes back to the concept of diversity in the gut microbiome. Great.
Okay, thanks for that. Now we've got a couple of questions just come in on the Q&A on the webinar. So the first one from Nicola: is shop-bought kombucha and switchel good for your gut bacteria?
Shop-bought kombucha and what? Sorry?
Switchel, good for your gut bacteria.
Yeah, but it is good in the sense that, okay, so probiotic, what it means is pro is to add, biotic is biota, which is bacteria. So addition of bacteria, that's what a probiotic is. So when we talk about probiotic foods or supplements, what that means is you are adding literal bacterial cells into your body. Kombucha is good in the sense that you are adding beneficial bacteria into your gut microbiome, which can help to outcompete the bad bacteria. However, it has a limit, because coming back to that concept of diversity in the gut microbiome, you don't want one type of good bacteria to be in charge, or overwhelming all the other different colonies of bacteria you have. So yes, kombucha is good, but generally they only have one type of bacteria in them, which isn't actually all that ideal. My preference would be to have like kefir instead, which normally has 5+ strains inside of it. So kefir, you can get kefir kombucha, and that would be the ideal. So yeah, kombucha isn't bad. It is good, but I would say it's good in a minor sense compared to other probiotic foods or drinks that you can get.
Okay, now the next question, and this one, this is an interesting one. How does caffeine affect gut bacteria?
It's actually pretty negligible. The only real thing that comes to mind is caffeine is a adjutant for the gut lining, which is why if you have a few too many cups of coffee, well, even after sometimes one cup of coffee, you can be running straight for the loo afterwards, because it actually agitates the gut lining and moves things along a lot quicker. But in terms of the actual microbiome, some bacteria actually do like caffeine. Some good bacteria actually do, and you'll be helping them along, but it's not going to have a hugely positive impact. But at the same time, it's not going to have a large negative impact either. The only case where caffeine, and normally people will think of coffee, the only case where I would say something with caffeine is very beneficial for the gut is in green tea, because of the antioxidants in green tea are very potent, very good for your gut bacteria, and it feeds them very well. So that would be the only instance, really. If we're talking about coffee, I wouldn't include that in the realm of improving or causing harm to the gut microbiome. It's very neutral.
Okay, well, that's good to hear for someone that would find it very difficult to give up coffee. I'm sure there's others out there that would feel the same. Got another question here. Will probiotics help with indigestion eventually?
Yes. So indigestion is, I know we use it as it's the name for what we call it, but indigestion, when you think about what the name is, you are unable to digest efficiently. That's what indigestion is. So you get a lot of gas and irritability. Gut bacteria help you to break down food. They help you to digest. So if you have a microbiome that's thriving, then you are going to break down food with a lot less effort and more efficiently. So yes, it does help with indigestion. The main thing I would actually use for indigestion is like intermittent fasting or time-restricted feeding, that kind of thing, where you're essentially giving your gut a break from digestion regularly. That helps a lot, because in that time when you're not digesting, your body is able to improve all the cells in your engine, right? Your gut is your engine. If the fuel goes in and gets processed, you're giving your engine a break and allowing it to repair itself and make itself more efficient again. So yeah, time-restricted feeding or intermittent fasting would be the key ways that I would go about addressing indigestion and acid reflux as well.
Right. Okay, Sean, I don't know that we've got any more questions coming through at this stage. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Sean?
No.
Actually,
well,
I had a question. I was going to ask you about apple cider vinegar with the mother in. Is that in the realms of kombucha as being something with just it's a good thing to have?
It's fine to have. It's good to have, but it's not. It doesn't have bacteria living in it. You're not introducing bacteria. It's not a probiotic.
Right.
So,
okay.
Although when your body processes the actual acid from vinegar, it's quite funny how it works, but when you digest it, it actually becomes basic, so alkaline, more alkaline. So it's actually really good for like your blood, for example. And a lot of the time, your good gut bacteria, it actually helps their health as well when these acids are digested. So it is good for your gut health, but it's not a probiotic. It's not going to do what a probiotic supplement does, or what kefir does, or kombucha, or any of these probiotic foods.
Okay, no, that's good. Good to know. Don't think we've got, I'll just double check if we've got any other questions coming in. No, not at this stage. So big thanks, Sean, to you again for a really informative session. I know quite a lot of people have said to me during the week that they can't always join the sessions live, but they really enjoy watching the recordings back. And to pass on our thanks to both you and Simon for last week's, Simon joined us last week. Hugely beneficial to people on their journey through the Give It Up month. I'm certainly learning a lot through the process, and really, really appreciate you giving your time to support everyone. Now next week, next Thursday evening, we've got a session on sleep and how that impacts your health, or rather how lack of sleep can have an impact on your overall health, and particularly if you're on a weight loss journey with Give It Up. you know, how good sleep can help you on that journey. So join us next week. I hope your second week goes well. Keep an eye out on your emails. We've got a little bit of fun happening midweek next week to mark the halfway point of the Give It Up challenge. So keep an eye on your emails for details of what we're doing next week to mark that. And we'll see you next Thursday evening for the webinar on sleep. So all the best with your week ahead, and thank you again for a fantastic fundraising effort, and keep up the great work. You know, you're making a huge difference to Kiwis with gut cancer, but also for your own health going on this journey. So thank you, and see you next week.
Thanks very much, team.